Hello and welcome to our Load Runner and Performance Center 1256 What's New webinar. We are excited to share with you the new features from our latest version 1256, which was released 3 weeks ago. We appreciate the time you took to join us today, and we hope you will find this webinar interesting, enriching, and helpful. And we are honored to have with us today Shlomi Nissim, our Load Runner and Performance Center R&D Manager, who will walk you through the Load Runner and Performance Center 1256 new features with detailed overview. And we'll continue with Ilah Levy, our Load Runner and PC Functional Architect, who will run a live demo of Performance Center 1256 new features in a full end-to-end flow. We encourage you to listen, watch, and ask questions. Please write your questions in the WebEx chat window, and we'll do our best to answer it online or later. Please send your questions to everyone, and you are also invited to email us your questions, and it will be answered and published as part of the questions and answers file. The session recording, slide deck, and the questions and answer files will be available for download, and we'll send you the link. Now we'll start with the What's New presentation by Shlomi Nissim. Enjoy.
Thank you very much, Aliza. Thanks everyone for joining the session and spending the time with us. I'd like to start with a special thanks to all of the customers that we have been working with on both 1255 and 1256. You guys really awesome. You really help us making the product better and directing us to the customer-oriented requirements and use cases. So we are really grateful for that in the R&D team. I'm going to cover the 1256 in overview, kind of the bird's eye to see what have we done, what are the high-level features, and then I will dive into highlights from the various areas, and we will conclude with a demo that Ilah will perform. It's important to note that 1256 is a first release that is actually being delivered as a service pack on top of a full install. This is an approach that we are taking moving forward as well, basically to provide probably one release with a full install every year, and then followed by service pack releases that introduce both functionality and quality enhancements in order to provide ease of deployment and fast response to customer needs as much as possible. I must note that 1255 was already downloaded by almost 10K unique users around the world, specifically for Load Runner, of course, and we have unprecedented number of Performance Center customers who already moved to production in 1255, and some even with 1256. So again, we'd like to thank those customers who show faith in us, and we will continue to serve you well. 1255 and 1256 are actually a new path for both Load Runner and Performance Center, in which we put a lot of emphasis on analysis capabilities, on DevOps capabilities, on modernization of the product, and ease of deployment. We put also a lot of focus on customer enhancements, and this is actually the main guiding stars which we follow. So the 1256 in highlight basically introduces yet another very meaningful step forward, following the path that we took in 1255. We introduce enhancement around the analysis in Performance Center, such that do not require necessarily to collate result and analyze result, and which you can see the data in a very granular manner, also while the test is running and not necessarily after that. So we took another step forward, and you will see that in the demo. We also took very meaningful steps around DevOps in the shape of Bamboo plugin, integration with App Dynamics, and probably the key feature of this version, the integration with Kubernetes to allow dynamic provisioning of load generators without the need to do anything technical behind the scenes. As soon as you set up Kubernetes and connect it with Performance Center, you are able to spin up Linux load generators dynamically without managing them in the lab and without spending a lot of effort on maintaining them. So basically, when you install a new version for the Linux load generators that are hooked up with the Kubernetes system, you can just basically take the container, the new container, and start working with it. As you can see, there are a wealth of additional features over here, a lot of enhancement requests that many of our customers have been asking for years, such as a progress bar in My Performance Center for collate and analyze. And so we listened and we implemented the ability to see related tests, related entities in My Performance Center, the ability to add attachments in My Performance Center. We introduced Linux monitor via SSH, something that many of our customers have requested a lot of years ago, as opposed to the RSH based monitor. Actually, this one was introduced only for Load Runner. We'll catch up with Performance Center on this monitor soon. So as you can see, the direction is very clear. We invest both in modern capabilities that will open up the product for use in the context of the larger ecosystem, where Performance Center plays only yet another piece in the puzzle, as well as in the improving the traditional capabilities for managing the lab and managing the assets for ease of use. So I'll start with a more deeper dive in the protocols and technology area. In high level, the focus areas were around the True Client, where we introduced a new version of Firefox browser, and we will elaborate much more on that. We also had very nice usability enhancements that we will see and discuss. Some security-related update in the protocols area that are very nice with the upgrade of OpenSSL to a newer version, and this is something that we will continue investing in next version and keep ourselves up to date with the latest OpenSSL version out there, and a very nice enhancement in VTS. And of course, we always keep some budget allocated for enhancing the protocols that our customers are using most often and most common, such as Citrix and Oracle NCA, and we got some requests from several customers around MQTT, so we have enabled IP spoofing for that as well. Let's dive into more details. So True Client browser is basically the new browser for supporting the latest, or maybe I should say the more updated Firefox version. This browser is actually introduced as a technical preview for several reasons. It is fully based on Mozilla technology. It is actually the same exact Firefox browser, only that we had to rename it because we had to do some modification in the browser source code, and according to Mozilla end user license agreement, we could not use the Firefox trademark because we did this source code change. The reason for which we changed the code is actually in order to support similar capabilities to the ones that we had in the legacy version of Firefox. So there are several reasons for which we introduced that as a technical preview. The first one is because the new Firefox browser introduces a completely different architecture. It is much more similar to Chrome architecture, to Chromium architecture in nature. So each tab, each window opens as a separate process, and as such, the extension model is completely different. So we had to completely rewrite the extension model for Firefox on top of the latest version. This is why it took us more time to deliver a more updated version for Firefox. So as you can see, the version that we delivered in 12.55 and actually it was delivered also in 12.53 was 40.03. This is the last version in which the browser supported the old extension model. So we adjusted the extension model and we deliver 55.0.3, which was released in August 2017. And now it's going to be much easier for us to keep up with the more updated Firefox versions and ensure that we are up to speed with that. Despite the fact that each window is being opened as a separate process, we decided to work in a single process mode, which means that you have only one process, but behind the scenes, Firefox is managing all the communication between the different tabs in the same way as if each tab was running as a separate process. The single process mode allows us to reduce a bit the footprint of the browser, and also the multi-process mode is still a bit shaky when it comes to working in extension, and TrueClient has very rich extension that utilize a lot of the browser interfaces. So it's only natural that we'll try to take the steps, some precaution steps, and we found that the single process mode is more stable at this point in time. Let's talk a bit about the footprint of the browser. So this is not good news, and this is yet another reason for which we chose to introduce it as a technical preview and side by side with the old Firefox version. So as you can see, the old Firefox version is still available for you for use, and existing scripts will still run in the regular TrueClient Firefox, and you will have to choose on your own if you would like to start experimenting TrueClient browser. There are some customers who told us that they have applications that do not longer support the older version of Firefox, so I guess for this type of application it makes sense to go and start experimenting, and generally speaking it's really up to you. Only that you really have to realize that the browser footprint and these numbers is actually without even running any script, without nothing. If you just take a copy of Firefox browser from an older version and the latest version, you will realize that the footprint is much larger, and this is because the modern browsers are actually following after better performance as opposed to reducing the memory footprint. So this is the trade-off. We already know that Mozilla invested in lowering the footprint in the more updated releases, but still the more updated releases have higher footprint comparing to Chromium. So of course, as a result of all of that, it's lower scalability and less virtual users per load generator, and because of that, we didn't make it as a default choice, and we still keep the previous version of Firefox and delivered in 1256. Some limitations that worth mentioning over here. Just like with the Chromium browser, where we couldn't support connections data points in the recording snapshots due to the security limitations of the extension of the browser. So Mozilla pretty much followed some kind of a standard approach for building extension and kind of a cooperation between the browser vendors. And we were not able to deliver connections and recording snapshots for this as well. It's important to note that replay snapshots and snapshot on error supported and working. So just for general knowledge, there are a few more limitations. I assume that they are more niche ones. DNS time, just a bug in the browser API. For now, it returns 0, so hopefully it will be fixed in the future. Captive portal, which is some kind of a landing page for users and authentication, is still not supported by True Client in this version. We will do our best to address it in the future. And digital media materials are still not supported, the DRM type. So hopefully all these limitations will be resolved in the future version. In terms of the usage of the True Client browser, so basically from Vuegen, as you can see, we still kept the legacy Firefox version, and this is actually the default choice when creating a new script. If you wish to start experimenting True Client browser, the latest Firefox version, you can choose it over here, and then open the script, and it's like with the record once, replay all approach. It will be applicable for the True Client browser as well. If you have an if browser in the step, then when using True Client browser, the branching will go to the Firefox branch. So this will actually ensure that you don't need to do any changes in the script in order to start using it. But still, old script, if you don't touch it, they will still keep on running on the legacy Firefox version. Of course, you have the capability to determine the runtime settings from controller, from Performance Center, and of course from Vuegen as well. So moving on to some other enhancements, very nice enhancement around the runtime settings. So you are capable basically to search for a value for a key, in runtime settings. This is really good for protocols that have a lot of sections, a lot of tabs, a lot of keys. Very hard to find your way around and remember. So just by a simple search, you can reach to it and modify whatever you need. Another very exciting capability, which I think it brings our support for JMeter to a new level, is supporting distributed mode remote nodes. So JMeter as a load testing tool is very similar to in its architecture, in its deployment to Load Runner. You can have controller and you can have kind of injectors. So these remote nodes were not supported. This mode was not supported in 1255. Right now it is supported and can be enabled in the runtime settings. So it makes the old story of just taking the JMeter tests as is and running it in Load Runner and Performance Center. It makes it much more compelling. And we will, of course, keep enhancing this area. This is where you can actually enable that just by clicking on remote testing and specifying the properties file. That the properties file basically includes all the details regarding the remote hosts, and then this file is being transferred to the load generator machine where JMeter is running, and then it knows how to connect to the remote host and run from there. And from that point, it's kind of transparent for Load Runner and Performance Center. Our extension basically collects data and report it to the controller for online analysis, and later on also in the analysis application. What's really nice is the fact that we chose to align the data points reporting to the Load Runner reporting. So basically, JMeter transactions will starting 1256 will be reported as Load Runner transactions, meaning in the traditional Load Runner graphs. The same applies for the JMeter threads. They are reported as running users now. This is really good, especially in light of the very rich capabilities that we have in the Load Runner analysis application for transactions. So right now you can start using transaction summary graph, transaction under load, transaction percentile, transaction response time with all the variations, analysis API, which if you have your clients implemented, so you can grab the data in a generic way for whatever test you are running. Performance Center trending feature allows trending transaction data from JMeter as well. So like an entire feature set is opened and much richer and much more beneficial than it used to be. And also in future releases, we will also invest in supporting SLA for that, and that will actually complete the picture in a very nice way. Some more usability enhancements. Some performance improvements in Vuegen for ease of use. So we have the usage reporting feature that we implemented a while ago in Vuegen, and we have it's of course anonymous, and we don't have any private data reported, but we track the statistic that we get over there when we analyze sessions, and whenever we see a potential for improvements, either from stability perspective and from performance perspective, then we apply. So a few enhancements were done in that area for the benefit of the day-to-day usage. Citrix allows right now to set the client window size, which is really important for UI-based testing in order to make the test more stable. In the parameters area, we removed the limitations for 32K max size of parameter files. So this is yet another good addition. And in MQTT, we removed the generate snapshot and error from UI. The security updates, kind of repeating myself. So the OpenSSL version was updated, and VTS server. Many customers have been asking for SSL support and for better authentication, and supporting that also from APIs. So all of that was implemented. Many customers, not only Load Runner and Performance Center, also Storm Runner are going to enjoy from that. In terms of analysis, so we invested quite a lot in Performance Center analysis. So in 1255, we took a step to start collecting data while the test is running in order to enable the performance engineer to drill down into the test data while it is running. So you can actually see for a long running test, you can see what happened in the first minute, what happened after an hour, and not necessarily be restricted to the granularities that Load Runner controller is restricted to today. So We took these capabilities, we have done a lot of backend enhancements over there, and we still continue to invest in their post 1256 as well. From UI perspective, you can see that we have separated the graphs, the groups, transaction and messages, each one in its own tab, and we introduced this status bar over here on the top in order to give the performance engineer in all of the times a view of what's going on with the virtual users and with the high level statistics of the test. But right now it is much more usable to see the statistics in the graphs and play with that. And we've done a lot of enhancements in the messages area where we basically aligned the user interface with LoadRunner with all the rich capabilities of group by with various different types, allowing to drill down by scripts, by host, by virtual user. So many of our customers have been requested features of this nature, and finally we gave it. Another point regarding that is that this whole view is actually available also after the test ended, not necessarily when it is running. So you don't need to collate result or analyze result in order to see all this data. This data is available for you, and you can see all the errors. Many of our customers have requested the errors after the test ended without collating the data and without being forced to install MS Access or something like that in order to see it. So right now it's a plain text view. In the future we will enable also to export the data. So it's really useful. App Dynamics integration. So it's following the integrations that we introduced in 1255, where we implemented the new Relic integration and Dynatrace integration. The Dynatrace integration is superior right now to AppD and New Relic, because in Dynatrace we have two-way integration. Kind of one aspect is the configuration from the script, where we can color the HTTP headers and let Dynatrace parse that basically. And also the ability to create monitor profiles with all the data that Dynatrace is offering. So for AppD and for New Relic, we have just the second part where you can define all the measurements that you configured in App Dynamics and view that while the test is running, and also in the analysis application, and also use it in the context of Performance Center trending. So it's very, very powerful. No limit on whatever you can choose. It's just open for you. From DevOps perspective, we introduce on top of the Jenkins plugin, which we enhanced significantly in 1255, we introduced now Bamboo plugin. So those of you who are using Bamboo, this is your chance to get a plugin from us. We are continuing to invest in additional plugins in future releases, which hopefully will be released not too long from today. I think we already covered the JMeter integration, so the same way that it applies for LoadRunner, it is applicable also for Performance Center. REST APIs that we have exposed are basically, we collected the top requests from customers according to their needs, and we have exposed APIs to manage time slots and reservation, to check availability of a time slot, to delete or to schedule. So it's open in REST API now. Also, those of you who are using ALM version control, then you can update the version control status right now. The Kubernetes integration that we have exposed is opened also in REST API, so you can configure that in the test level. You can configure the Dockerized Kubernetes load generators in the test itself using REST, and the ability to manage cloud hosts. So you can provision and deprovision cloud load generators using Performance Center REST APIs. So those of you who are doing that already, you can consider shifting to use our REST APIs, and basically by that you can standardize on a single set of APIs and not necessarily work with different providers differently. All right, a lot of features. I feel that I am speaking a lot. I'm sorry. So for the elastic load generators, I'm not going to elaborate too much because Eli is going to demonstrate that soon. But the projects that have Kubernetes server associated with them will see in the ability to assign load generator an elastic section, and this elastic section basically, as opposed to specific and auto-match where you have to have the load generators defined in the lab, these one are just dummy, they don't exist. It's just the assignment, and allows you the flexibility to assign the amount of load generators that you want to a group. And then when you run the test, they are being provisioned on the fly for you. And when the test ends, they are being deprovisioned, and there is also built-in monitors for that. From modernization perspective, we invested in the user interface for assigning load generators to group, as well as the configuration of the load generators in the test level. So many of our customers are using Citrix protocol, True Client protocol. Oftentimes they need to use the terminal sessions in order to extract the best out of strong load generators and create multiple different sessions. So this all configuration is now much easier. The ability to configure the setting for the terminal session once and apply it on multiple load generator, very, very easy, very useful. And the ability to determine the credentials that you want to put for the terminal session, something that was exposed in Load Runner and was not exposed in Performance Center, is now available. And of course, you can also define the color level, the bit level of the session itself. Also, we modernized the HTML report. It looks much better. Many of you said we would like to be proud of what we share with our internal customers. So hopefully this one will be something that you will appreciate more. Enhancement requests that we have done. Actually, the other stuff is also things that customers have been requesting, but these had formal enhancement requests to publish in our public system. So the ability to control the load generator agent remotely. This is really good for True Client IE when it runs under the system account. So if you assign a proper account with the right privileges, True Client IE will be able to run under the system account without facing the local storage issue. Those of you who are familiar with that will probably appreciate. You will not need to switch into process mode, which is something that we aspire to eradicate from the product and give it as transparent as possible with less overhead for you guys. We introduced in 1255 the parameters dialog in the load test level. Right now you are able to add rows, to add columns, so much more capabilities in here and very usable. The ability to see related tests for entities and related tests for monitors, so kind of matching the capabilities that we have in the ALM client, the attachment in the script and in other entities. So in the test and the test result, you can upload file. So it was requested by many customers to be available in my Performance Center as well. And this is it for me. So sorry, I couldn't help myself. So Ila, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Shlomi. Hi everybody. I'm Ila, Load Runner and Performance Center Functional Architect. And I'm going to show you a demo on a Performance Center and view most of the new features in Performance Center for 1256, which also the ones Shlomi spoke of. So we're going to start with the web administration. If you recall, it was already introduced in 1253. It had only enhanced reporting back then, and we keep enhancing it with more and more of the lab views. And now when I'm logging in 1256, we have a new dashboard, a new admin dashboard. So the admin can view the status of the resources and the projects. On the upper part, you can see the entire host information. Here we can see the status of the runs, whether the ones that finished running, the ones that are scheduled to run, and what is currently running. Of course, with the entire information that we need to see for each one. For the running, we can also drill down to it and take a look at the online view. Okay, just note that we can see up to 10 runs at a tab at a time. And of course, more and more graphs about the concurrent run and licensing information, everything in the dashboard when the admin logs in. Okay, moving to the host view. So we have the host configuration. This is already present in 1255. We have the host general setting, but we can see the controller settings. Here you can see, just to remind you, you have the offline results purging settings because the offline results are currently saved as a file on the controller. So you can change the values from here. And of course, another look at the data processor settings. So new capability that was added is the load runner agent configuration. I'm just choosing bulk of hosts. And from this view, I can configure the Windows account under which the load runner agent is running without having to physically log on to the load generator machine. Just know that this option is also available from the testing host in my PC project. So a new view that was added is the orchestration view. As mentioned, PC now supports elastic provisioning of Linux LGs without relying on hosts defined in the lab. This is done through a Docker orchestrator. There are few ones in the market, and we're currently supporting Kubernetes. So of course, you need to set it up beforehand and then configure it here in the admin. And we'll see some of the fields that we need to configure. Let's drill down on one of the orchestrator servers. So first of all, we need to define the server URL. The type currently is only defined to Kubernetes. Probably will support more and more later on. The namespace is a private space where your containers will be created. And the token is the Kubernetes token to authenticate API requests. Okay, next we can choose image. The image selection is done from the images list. We later on see it in this view. The default is the image in the Docker Hub, which is supplied by us. And of course, you can also create additional custom images and even choose a few ones to assign to this orchestrator. Later on, we see how we use that. We also have an ability to monitor the containers. So in this option, we just need to define a hipster server, and this enables collecting metrics on the Kubernetes container clusters. The admin also has the ability to control the container's memory and CPU limit. Okay, so we just define these limitations, and when defining the projects, also in the projects level, we will see these limitations. In addition, there is an ability to specify external storage in order to keep the run files. So it's just a precaution to prevent any data loss in case of any issues. Also note that the load generators, the containers, are being deprovisioned automatically post-run. So lastly is to assign projects to the orchestrator. And then these projects will have the ability to use the Elastic LGs. We'll soon log into the My PC project and see how it works. So this is the second tab we have in the orchestration view. This is the type of the Docker images. So the list of the images we see here, this is the list we also saw in the assign images in the orchestration definition. So next, let's log in to my performance center. Okay, and first let's go to the test resources and define a new monitor profile. We have the new app dynamics type monitor profile. Okay, we define the server first. Just note that it was tested for version 4.3. We also support version 4.4 with this integration. We're currently using the default port, and we need to supply a username and password. The user, of course, has to have an access to applications in App Dynamics. Different users will see different applications according to their permissions. So once I'm pressing Get Applications here, I will get the list of applications according to the user I've entered. So I'm choosing an application, and I will press the Get Counters, and I will see the entire hierarchy of the counters from this application in App Dynamics, and I'm simply choosing which ones I want to associate with this monitor profile. Note the red note that says that it can take several minutes for the first results to appear in the online graphs during the execution of these measurements of App Dynamics. This is due to App Dynamics reporting data mechanism. Okay, so now my monitor profile is saved. I see in the bottom that I have a new tab called Related Tests, so I can see to which test this monitor profile is associated. Currently to none, will soon associate it to a test. Let's take a look at one of our scripts in Performance Center. You can see that we've added new tab of description, attachments, and related test. We can see to which test this script is associated with. We can add attachments here in the script level. Let's open the edit parameters. So this was already added in 1255, the capability of adding the script parameters from Performance Center. And in this version, we've enhanced this functionality by enabling addition of rows and columns. Few notes, only file and table type parameters are supported, and the parameter table is limited to displaying a maximum of 1,000 rows or columns and a file size of 2 megabytes. And if this limit is exceeded, then only then you need to do it through ViewGen. Okay. So let's move over and open one of our performance tests. You can see that we also have the option of description here, also the ability to add attachments, and to view our relations. We can see that now we have one monitor associated with this test. Let's edit the test and add the new App Dynamics monitor profile we've just created. Let's go to the monitors view. From here we are adding the App Dynamics, just removing the former one for this case of this demo. Okay, going back to the groups and workload, let's take a look at the runtime settings. The search option, the new search option, just entering any key, and I'm getting a highlights of all the results, and I can just go back and forth between them. If we're looking at JMeter runtime settings, let's focus on JMeter and open JMeter runtime settings. Okay, so we've added the support for the JMeter server node mode, which is the ability to run the JMeter test across multiple remote servers. And to enable that, we need to define a properties file containing the names of these remote hosts. So in this field that we currently checked, we need to enter the path to the additional properties file, and of course make sure the location is accessible to the load generator. Just a reminder that JMeter is supported with no additional license or cost. Okay, another note here in the design load test, you have the button of edit script also from here, from the test level, with the same abilities that we saw in the script. Just one note that any change that you're doing here is saved in the script level and not just in the test level. So next we're going to take a look at the LG management. We've tried to simplify the management of the load generator. So currently you see only two buttons, two options, LG management and assign LG. In the LG management, we can set the LG's locations and the attributes, basically same as before. Okay, we hope much more simpler and much better UI. And of course, we've enhanced the terminal services configurations in few ways. First, we've added the ability to run terminal sessions using a predefined user account, and also ability to define the color depth for the terminal sessions. The configuration settings of the terminal services can be done for multiple LGs at once. I'm simply choosing a bulk of hosts. I can see how many of them were selected, and it will now be set for all these hosts. Let's open the Assign LG window. So this window was redesigned to allow a simpler assignment of all LG types to multiple groups. So the window now contains two parts. On the left side, we can see the entire groups, and on the right, all of my LGs divided to specific auto match. And in case an orchestrator was assigned to this project, we will also see the Elastic section. Under Elastic, there is a list of containers with default names from Docker 1 to 10. This is just currently logical names. We can see which image is being used and assigned to the orchestrator, and if more than one was assigned, then we'll have a drop-down and we can simply choose which one we want to use for this specific test. And of course, if the admin set limitations for the CPU and memory limit, it will also be visible here. So now we can assign the load generators to the groups, simply checking which LGs we want to assign to which groups and clicking Assign. We can see that the number of assigned LGs is updated. There's an ability to expand each group to view the load generators. We can also unassign a specific load generator from here. We have the same ability of expansion also from the LG's view. Okay, we can see the groups that are associated with these load generators, and of course a possibility to unassign it from here. Okay, so let's save the assignment. We can see that now we have Docker load generator assigned, and let's execute the test. Okay. So take a look at this warning that we get because we have Docker containers. Because we are deprovisioning these containers automatically post-run, it is advisable to choose as the post-run actions to collate or already collate and analyze. Okay, and once we will run and get into the initialization phase, only then the containers will be created. Okay, we've started the test. So this is the new redesigned online view, which is divided to separate tabs of the graphs, the groups, transactions, and the messages, which allows us to have a better and enhanced usability for each one of the tabs. On the upper part, we have the summary line with info regarding the errors, transactions, and the view users. This info is always visible at the top, even when we're switching between the tabs. This way we have more space for viewing the graphs without losing any important information, which always appears on the top. The messages view now displays more advanced capabilities of filtering and grouping. We can group by, in this example, code. We can filter the type to view, for example, only errors. And we can do more and more drill downs. Once I'm doing all the drill downs, at the upper part, I will have breadcrumbs, so I can always go back to where I was before. Okay, so let's go back to the graphs. I can see that after a few minutes, my app dynamics graph is updated with all the measurements that I've defined. As mentioned before, the JMeter measurement, the view users and transaction graphs, which were separated last version, are now merged with the general transaction and view user graph. And let's stop the run. So we can see also the offline result view. So once the test is finished, I can simply click on the Open Offline. Okay, so it's open with similar capabilities of the online, can view the entire graphs, all the related data. Note I also have the history view. This is also available in the online, we just didn't enable it before. In this version, we've added also the transactions and the messages information. And once I'm during the collation and analysis, I can see already the progress bar, which is new. I can see it here in my start page. This is also available from the runs page for each run. And once it will hit 100%, I will be able to open the HTML report straight from here. Okay, you can take a look at the graphs, much more modern graphs. We also have the app dynamics, entire information here, automatically, also here in the analysis, of course. So basically this was a short glimpse of our new capabilities. We keep enhancing the web performance center and administration with new functionality and new capabilities, and we encourage you all to use it and supply us our feedback. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ila. Just one thing that I forgot to mention is that 1256 is actually not available in the community edition flavor. This is available only for customers with active support contract. And I think right now Lisa is going to share all the links in order to download it.
Okay, so thank you, Shlomi and Hila. And we'll finalize our webinar with more details about the installation and the release. So here you can find the download path for both Load Runner and Performance Center, and you will receive it in the presentation that we will share. Next, we will see just the release information with all the relevant links. And last but not least, we have our plans. So we will have the next webinars. We'll have the web protocol webinar. The second session will take place on May 8th. And the True Client webinar, the What's New, will take place on July 10. If you're interested, you're invited to email us to plv_cost@microfocus with the proper subject.